Footprints on the Heart. Give to Receive. In a small town, surrounded by mountains and crystal-clear rivers, lived a young man known for his impeccable appearance and proud attitude. His name was Martin, and although his external beauty was undeniable, what really made him special, or at least that's what he believed, was his heart. One day, Martin decided it was time to show the entire town what he considered his greatest treasure. The next morning, Martin stood in the center of the main square, right where the sun illuminated his face. With a clear and determined voice, he exclaimed, "Listen, everyone. Today I will show you the most beautiful heart you have ever seen." People, intrigued by his words, began to gather around him. Men, women, and children approached with curiosity. Martin placed his hand on his chest, closed his eyes, and suddenly a warm light emerged from within, revealing his heart. Everyone present was amazed. It was a perfect heart, without spots or scratches, without scars or imperfections. It shone with an extraordinary brilliance. A woman in the crowd whispered, "That's true. It's the most beautiful heart I've ever seen." Another man nodded, impressed. "It has no marks. It's absolutely perfect." Martin smiled, satisfied by the murmurs of admiration. He knew that his heart was impeccable and, therefore, the most beautiful of all. However, while he was enjoying the praise, a deep and slow voice interrupted his moment of glory. "Why do you say that, boy?" asked an old man who had emerged from the crowd. "Your heart is not as beautiful as mine." The crowd turned, surprised by the audacity of that man with gray hair and trembling hands. When the old man opened his shirt to show his heart, there was a murmur of bewilderment. His heart was beating strongly, but it was covered in scars, some deep, some less so, with holes and missing parts. Pieces were replaced by other pieces that did not fit quite right, with irregular edges and uneven seams. Martin, seeing that apparently damaged heart, could not contain a mocking laugh. "How dare you compare your heart to mine?" he said with an arrogant tone. "Mine is perfect, while yours is just a pile of scars and pain." The old man looked at him with a serene expression and replied, "It is true, your heart looks perfect, but let me tell you what my scars mean. Each one of them represents a person to whom I have given all my love. I tore off pieces of my heart to give them to those I have loved. Many of them, in turn, gave me pieces of theirs, which I placed in the places where my heart was left open. Because the pieces were not the same, these uneven edges are visible. But it doesn't bother me, because each scar reminds me of the love shared." The crowd fell silent, listening intently to the old man's words. The wind blew softly, as if even nature itself wanted to hear their story. There were also times, the old man continued, when I gave a piece of my heart and received nothing in return. Those are the holes you see. Although they hurt, they remind me that I still love those people, and I hold out hope that one day they can return and fill the void they left behind. So tell me, boy, do you understand now what is truly beautiful? Martin remained silent. For the first time, his heart began to beat slower, and a strange, almost unfamiliar feeling invaded him. She felt a pang, a pain that was not physical, but something deeper, something she had never experienced. Slowly, tears began to roll down her cheeks. She looked at the old man, and in that moment, she understood something that her eyes could not see, but her heart was beginning to feel. He stepped forward, approaching the old man with humility and respect. Without saying a word, he tore off a small piece of his perfect heart and offered it to him. The old man, with a tender smile, took the piece and placed it in his own heart. Then he removed a fragment of his scarred heart and placed it in the young man's open wound. The piece did not fit perfectly. The irregular edges were noticeable, but that did not matter. Martin looked at his heart, which was no longer perfect, but he felt it beat with a strength and warmth he had never experienced before. It was as if that small piece of the old man's heart had brought with it a new light, a connection to something bigger, deeper. "Now I understand," Martin said, his voice breaking. "I understand that the beauty of a heart is not in its perfection, but in its capacity to love and be loved, to give and receive, to heal and continue beating despite the wounds." The old man nodded with a warm smile. "That's right, my son. A beautiful heart is one that, although marked by pain, continues to beat with generosity, because each scar tells a story of love. A heart that gives itself without reservation, that accepts the irregular pieces of others and is not afraid to show its own emptiness." From that day on, Martin began to live in a different way. He began to look at people with different eyes, to share without expecting anything in return, to give pieces of his heart with generosity. And in turn, he discovered that the more he gave, the more his own heart was filled with new fragments, with new scars that did not hurt, but told stories of love and friendship. The people of the town noticed the change. Martin was no longer that arrogant young man who boasted of his perfect heart. Now he was someone who smiled sincerely, who listened attentively, who helped others without expecting recognition. His heart, though no longer flawless, shone with a brighter, more genuine light than before. And so, over time, young Martin became a wise old man with a heart full of scars, but also of love. And when the children of the village came to ask him why his heart looked so different, he smiled at them and told them the story of a young man who one day learned that the true beauty of a heart was not in its perfection, but in its ability to love without reservation, leaving traces in the hearts of others. Because, in the end, generosity not only fills the voids of one's own heart, but also the hearts of those who cross our path. And so, the traces of love and generosity are imprinted on hearts, creating scars that shine brighter than any external perfection. Reflection. Generosity is not measured by what one has, but by what one gives. A generous heart is a heart that, although imperfect, is truly beautiful, because in every scar there is a mark of shared love.
Welcome to our channel. All copyrights reserved. Don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and select the bell to be notified of new videos.